back to
Pardon Our Honesty,
where today we are deep diving into a very, very, very interesting topic. Lord help us. We are talking about adult children and raising, parenting, advising, helping them. Adult children.
Adult children.
They adults.
They're adults. So
they do what they want.
Right. So we're going to say that 18 and above.
18 and above.
Adult children. So
But what if they still left the house?
That's what we're going to talk about. Oh, look at that intro. That wasn't even planned. So
adult children.
There's probably a difference between adult children who live on their own, and adult children who live at home.
Yes.
So let's talk about adult children who live at home. So let's say they're graduated from high school, because we know we obviously have to care for them through high school. So if we have an 18-year-old at home, and let's just say they're not working or they're not doing what you want them to do, how do you handle that as an adult 18-year-old?
You're going to get a deadline. You better get your ass together or you got to get out.
Okay, so a lot of people say that, but then they feel guilty. Like, what are they going to do? And I don't want them to end up on the streets, and I don't want them sleeping on couches, and I don't want... So let me back up. Do you think it has something from the point that they were younger till now that affects them when they're 18 and being able to move on? Like I'll give an example. Our kids know, from the time they were little, you're going to go to school, you're going to get a job, but you ain't living here forever.
Yes. Started
working at 15, you guys have to have goals. Yeah. My daughter goes away to college. She's like, can I come home? You're not going to be living with me when you come home if you want to come home. So there's a, you're an adult.
Yeah.
You got to start working towards that. So how do you handle that 18-year-old now laying in their bed gaming? They game all night from 10 p.m. till 4 a.m. Then they sleep till noon and they're not working. They're not contributing. How do you handle that?
So like you said, all of my children are adults. Let's start with that. I did instill in them, hey, I got you till you're 18, whether it was a boy or a girl. Got you until 18. You're either going to go to college. I stressed college. I wanted everybody to go to college. If college is not for you, that's fine. You can go to tech school or you can join the military. So that was something each of them knew. Once you turn 18, you got to go. I regret saying that because when I was 18, I had no clue what I wanted to do with my life. So I did join the military because I didn't want to stay at home. But I think if we had given them the freedom to kind of explore, do I want to go to work? Do I want to get a trade? Do I want to go in the military? Do I want to be an entrepreneur? And having more of those conversations, maybe what I deal with now with my adult children would have been a little bit different. Okay, so with that being said, I will say, there's different perspectives. If your kids are home being productive and working, whatever, maybe, and contributing, maybe you let them live with you. Okay, I'm not saying whatever. I feel like when I say something, people are like, oh my God, how do you just do that? But there's circumstances for everything. But what you were just saying, okay, maybe you wish you gave them, well, what does that time look like? And if you're give them that time, let's say, what do those people call it overseas? You get a gap year. So if you give them a gap year, are there still expectations during that gap year? Yes. You need to be working. You need to have your own money. You need to pay your own bills. That means your car, your insurance, all of these things, which I don't do. But yeah, there's still expectations of, okay, I shouldn't be footing your entire life.
Right.
And you should have some goals and aspirations, be working towards something, because hell, I need to see that I'm not going to have to take care of you when you're down 30 years old.
So when is that line of enabling an adult child and helping an adult child? Because Madison's my only adult child, right? So she's out in college. She pays her own car insurance. She pays her own spending money, her own gas. She lives away at school. She has the GI Bill, so she does get money from that. And then she works a host job. I do still pay her cell phone, which is $80.
Yeah.
But a lot of everything else is pretty much on her own. Now, if she came to me for help, I would help her, right? If she said, Mom, my car broke down. She doesn't, she paid for her own car. She doesn't have a car payment, but if she said it broke down, I need a little bit of help, I'd probably help her. Right. Mm-hmm. Her coming home, there'd have to be a very valid reason for her coming home. Yes. But where is that like helping, which, you know, I feel like I've taught her to be pretty independent, but then where can it turn into enabling to where, oh, I don't want him to do this. I don't want him to be on the show. I'm going to pay for that. Or I'm going to pay for that. I don't want him doing that. You know, so where's that line? For an adult child.
Once they become able to provide for themselves, once you can see, okay, like your daughter, she's no longer in college. She's gotten a degree. You should be able to provide for yourself. So
when you get to that point,
okay.
So hold on, I'm gonna stop you real quick.
No more.
So you use college as a reference, but it's not necessarily college. Whenever you see that they can provide for themselves.
Yes.
Okay. So let's back up. Okay. So you're saying you should be able.
Yeah.
So if I'm 21 years old, and I'm well beyond an adult, and I have a job from here to there and everywhere. I can't pay my bills, but I can go out and party like the best of them, and I can stay up gaming like the best of them, but I'm not paying my bills, and I'm not doing like. At what point then do you say, I've had enough?
I guess you have to be at the point where you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I can't honestly say to our audience that like I've gotten there, because I'm still helping 3 of the 4 adult children that I have like make it. And I know the other parent is helping the one that I'm not helping, or my parents are helping at least 2 of them survive. So one, like we talked about before, lives in a property that we own. And I do feel like he is out living his best life and not thinking of the burden that we have to maintain the home, pay for the home, pay for the HOA, pay the insurance, and you just get to live footloose, fancy.
So in that example, why is he still living there?
Because I don't want his ass to be homeless.
Right. So we just talked. So that's what a lot of people. But do you believe at some point? Like, I don't know how to. Yes, do you believe at some point it's just going to be worth it, or do you think you're just enabling until he's 30 and then he's never going to be able to be on his own?
At some point, and I have a date in my mind. And I have already what I'm going to say, that if you can't do this, then I'm sorry, you're going to have to be homeless.
So they should at least meet you. So like, okay, if you're going to provide housing for him or do whatever, and he's living his best life, you've got to pay me at least this much, or you have to do this.
Yeah.
Then we're at an equal compromise, and I'm not just giving in your, okay, I think that's fair.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, I have it rehearsed in my head, what I'm going to say, and the timeline.
What do you think it is about some adult kids? Because I know some adult kids that are still at home and they're in their 20s. They work a job that is not sustainable for them to live on their own. Yeah. And they still live with their parents, and they, you know, one of them doesn't even drive. So like they don't really have a lot of motivation to do anything. So like, where does that, is it because they're being enabled to do that? Like, where's that lack? Like, when I was younger, I was ready to go be an adult. I wanted to go play. I played college basketball. After college basketball, I went and got a job. I moved out, and I was getting married. Like, I was ready to be an adult. And I know it's hard. It was hard. I mean, I was working odd-end jobs and whatever. But like, where do you think it comes from that these kids, like, cool, if you, like, my daughter would probably choose to live with me the rest of her life, but she would be working and paying bills and whatever, right? Where does it come from when they just don't want to I feel sometimes it's a victim mentality. And then I think sometimes it's just a lazy mentality.
Both.
I mean, so like, where do you think it comes from when these kids don't want to go live on their, like, I wouldn't want to be under, and then, okay, let me ask this. Okay, we'll answer that first. Sorry, I'm going down like,
I think the error that I made was I did not want them to experience the life that I had. I grew up very poor. I worked from the age of 13 trying to provide just the basics for my son and I wanted them to have a better life. So in order for them to have a better life, I needed to do things differently. And I think I sheltered them from the responsibility of like holding them accountable, holding them responsible for things in the house. We're just going to have fun and go and do stuff and be this happy, great family. And then at 18, I was like, okay, go be adults. And I really didn't prepare them to be adults. So I think that was my era.
So sometimes you're saying the parent is probably very responsible. Like, have you taught your kids to cook and clean and do laundry and pay bills and basic bills and like...
I do. And then I think from the older two, they were held, because I was that mean, crazy ass mom. You're not going to depend on the system. You're going to have a work ethic. You're going to get good grades. You're going to go to college, blah, blah, blah. So I really beat that into the older two. The younger two, I think they saw the difference in each other. So the youngest one, she saw everybody go through becoming an adult and it's like, I'm not going to make that mistake, not going to make that mistake, blah, blah, blah. And so she's the one that I would say there's two of them that go out and go after what they want. If they find themselves in trouble, they're trying to come up with a solution. Like, my youngest is a school teacher. So she taught her first year this year, but she realized, oh shoot, I'm not going to get paid in the summer. So I still help her, but she's out Instacarting, door dashing, and then she has 2 other jobs that she's going to start soon to make up for her income.
Not expecting you to take care of her.
Not expecting me to take care of, but I help her because
she's putting an effort.
Work.
Yeah.
The oldest daughter, she's done the same thing. She's a go-getter. And those two, I will say, if there's a job to be had and they need money, they will go out and do it. The other two, I don't know what I did. I really don't know what I did. So, yeah.
So do you believe that it's like, so I believe that it's, my house, my rules. So if you're in the house and you're 20, 25, and I tell you to be in by midnight,
yes,
I have a right to do that.
That's why one of them does not live with us now. We had the whole, hey, you need to, 2 of them have come back home. They went out, became adults, great, didn't work out so well, so they came back home, right? In the coming back home, hey, these are the rules. You're going to get a job. Right? Okay. After you get a job, going to give you a little time to get yourself established. You need to pay a little bit of rent. After that, I'm going to help push you back out into
Can't
the
have
world.
certain people over. Yeah. Can't do certain things.
But like you say, my house, my rules. So no, you're not going to be able to participate in extracurricular activities at my house.
Right.
Because I'm not responsible for you getting a young lady.
Right.
Or you getting pregnant. And then now I've enabled you to do that. So I feel responsible. And oh shoot, now I got a little grandbaby to take care of. So no, we're not doing that. And so because I said, hey, you need to pay rent. And no, you got to pay rent. And then these are the rules. Even though you paying rent, they were like, no, I don't want to stay here because if I'm paying rent, I want to be able to do what I want to do. So no, you can't stay here. So
which your rent, I'm sure, was very far below market value.
It was $300.
Yeah, for a 1-bedroom, awesome hookup.
Yes.
So, and I think it's hard because I feel like adult children do seek advice and guidance from you a lot of times, but then they don't. One of the kids said the other day, I take your advice after my way fails. I was like, well, at least you consider our advice. I mean, at least you go and fail and then you say, hey, wait, they might know what they're talking about. Yeah. But I feel like with adult children, it's harder because I can preach to you and tell you what I want, especially if you don't live with me. You could tell me to F off, I mean, we have a mutual respect for each other, but like, you don't have to follow my rules or guidelines. I think where it gets harder is the kids who live at home and they want to be these, like, I make the rules and I don't have to pay anything. And somewhere I feel like the parents became the friend and not the parent, or the discipline wasn't enforced, and maybe sometimes it is just what it is. Yeah. But I feel like it's got to be very difficult because you want to always have a relationship with your children. Like as a parent, you have this need and desire to want to have a relationship with your children, but sometimes you just want to be like,
and sometimes even in that desire to, because you can see them going down a path that might not be good for them, or it's not going to work out so well. So you have that desire to be like the protector and say, hey, you going down this path, it's not really a great path, let me say something. But then if you say something and
you always got something to say, you never like what I do.
Yeah, if they have ulterior motive, or if they feel like you're attacking them, then for me, I'm gonna stop saying anything, because it is your life,
right? Which I relate to, because my mom would always give me her, and I this is me, so I am my mother, but my mom always gave me opinions, and so when I knew how my mom would answer stuff, so if I didn't want to hear it, I never told her, how's everything going? Great. Good. I don't want to hear your opinion. I already know what she's going to say. I know how she's going to say it, which obviously had some impact on me because I knew it. So I already knew what she was going to say and do. And I knew when I didn't want to hear it, most likely because I knew she was right. So I didn't want to hear it. And my daughter does it to me now. Like, I don't want to hear it because she doesn't want to hear it. She probably knows there's some truth or right in it. My dad was always the one who was less, he didn't give a lot of opinion. He would say, well, what do you think? Now, my mom told me after my dad passed, there's a lot of things he would go tell my mom to tell me. So my mom would be the bad guy. Yeah. My dad would sit back in the chair and I'd come and be like, I love you, Dad. And like, whatever. And my mom and I would be like flipping each other off, you know? But, so I think like every parent has, you see, the thing is, as you get older, you get wiser the older you get. What I know now, I wish I knew at 20. And, you look at your kids sometimes and you're like, you think you know everything. But if you would just listen and take our guidance, I promise we would never steer you wrong. Yeah. But I think it's a challenge with adult children because really they're thinking in their brain, I don't want to, But
I also think they don't take into consideration that we've walked in those steps before. We've been through some of not maybe exact same thing.
No, I mean, it's different, but
we've been through some of the same things you are facing, dealing with, maybe even worse. And we're just trying to protect you from falling into the same predicament.
But I wonder if sometimes too, like, we talk about sharing with your families. There's a lot of things, like my kids don't know a lot of things that I've been through. And I mean, they know some, but they don't know everything. And so like when they tell me something, I'm like, oh God, I know where this is going. I haven't said, well, listen, this time happened when, so maybe they think, you're old. You know what you're talking about. Times are different or like, and now there's some adult children who are super close. Like, me and Madison are pretty close. I know there's times that she is flipping me off. I know it, but she'll at least listen, she doesn't always take what I say. So that's where I go back to. Does it all come from their childhood? Like who they are we know their childhood affects everything.
Yes.
But who they are as an adult when they get to that adult stage and move on, is it majority from whatever happened prior to that? Or is it just something clicks and they just decide, I don't want to freaking do that? Or I do want to do that. Like, I'm not saying all teenage kids are bad, that some of them want to go for the gold. Like they want to go to college, they want to get a job, and they just don't want to, like, sometimes I'm like, be a kid too.
Yeah.
So like,
I think sometimes it's just in them because maybe they have experienced or watched other siblings go through the same thing. That might be one thing. And then I just think some have had experiences that set them back to where, okay, I failed at this and I was criticized. I failed at that and I was criticized. And so they have this fear of failure. And so that keeps them paralyzed in that kid that stays at home with their parents. I'm just going to work at the local McDonald's and mom says I can stay here and I don't have to have any ambition or go get it. And life is comfortable. So it's okay.
Yeah.
But I always figured like, well, don't you want to have a life?
Like, don't you want to go out with your friends and bring a girl home or a boy home? Or do you not want to have friends over and drink and do what you're not supposed to do? And don't you like, that's what's hard for me to grasp. Because, most of the time throughout their life up to the adult, I hate you. I can't wait till I leave this house, or I hate these rules. And then when it comes time to leave the house,
they stuck. You like, wait a minute.
But I've also seen the opposite though. I've seen where some parents are enablers their whole life. And so then, of course, they don't want to leave that because they're paying all their bills. They're providing all the groceries. They're paying for them to go out. They're paying for, they are living the life until they meet a girl who would probably take over, a boy or a partner who takes over that. Yeah. And so, like, I don't know. It's hard for me because I always want to have a close relationship with the adult kids, but I don't want you under my roof my whole life.
No, you can't,
because I feel like in our life as adults, you spend all your life raising children.
Yeah.
Then they become an adult. You have a small window before you have grandchildren or whatever, and now you have a new role. So it's like, I don't want to raise you up until that point, and then I have, you need that little window, I feel like, for us as your own adult.
Yes, so you can do what you want to do, but
what about, I was going to say something about kids, money, adults. Oh, what about parents giving money for general spending?
Huh?
Like, here's $20 to go to the movie, and here's...
At what age?
18 and above.
Okay, 18, they still in college. You need to ask me first. I'm not just giving it to you now. There should be a plan of, hey, you're an adult. If you want to do things, you got to plan for it, have a job to be able to take care of yourself and all that. But I'm going to give you this $20, but I want it back by this certain date. So I do feel like that is something that, okay, if they're still in college.
I do help sometimes.
Yeah,
like sometimes I'll say, here's $50 for the month. Like if you want to go out with your friends or do some, like, because Madison doesn't really ask me. She's my only college age one. Mm-hmm. She doesn't really ask me for a lot. Yeah. So a lot of times, or she comes home, I'll buy her like a shirt or shorts for summer. Or like, because I still feel like she's still a kid. She's still my kid. Yeah. My mom has always bought me stuff when I go visit. Like, it's kind of like, cool. Yeah, it's cute, but I can't, I know that there's a limit. Because if I go beyond the limit, then it's going to be like,
oh, no.
And I don't, I'm not okay with that. Yeah. I keep thinking this thought and it keeps leaving my brain.
This is the brain fog. Remember we
talked about it's a brain fog.
I will say that, I help my children. I help those that I see helping themselves more than I help the one that I feel like I'm helping you more than you helping yourself.
Yeah. I relate that to like give and take. If you're only a taker, then eventually I have to stop giving. Yeah. Because if you're not giving back, and Nick used this expression with his kids the other day, he was like, you're a taker and you want everybody to keep giving, but when you're not giving everything out and you're just taking, that gets cut off eventually. People aren't like excited or motivated by that. Now, at what point would you say you cut off a child? So what I mean by that, my family, my mother, a few years ago decided to basically disown my brother over, we're not really quite sure. I guess she didn't like some of the things he was doing as an adult. Nothing bad. Mm-hmm. He's married, has kids. I guess he wasn't devoting the same time. He wasn't, communicating with my parents the way they wanted. I don't know. Don't really know the whole scoop. But basically cut off. Now, I personally could never imagine that. Like, I could never imagine it. But what do you think gets somebody to that level, or what justifies saying, you know what, I just shouldn't have this relationship with this child?
Wow. I guess when there's nothing you can do for them. Say, for instance, now you said
mine was not a bad thing.
Not a bad thing, but if it's a bad thing to where you're at the point where I've tried to help you, I've tried to talk to you, and you just ignore completely any good thing, and you're just destroying your life, I'm not going to be able to watch that. Like, if you're into drugs real bad, and I done took you to rehab, I done brought you back home, tried to get you clean, and you keep going after, that bad life, and I'm not going to be able to watch that, so I got to cut you off. Yeah. But that would be the extreme.
I feel like that would be the extreme too, but I think I'd still watch from a distance. I guess I just find it hard where people, I don't understand it. I mean, I can maybe just cut off participating and helping you and whatever, but to say like, don't communicate, I think is an extreme. But I can see how, everybody has a toxic relationship. And if talking to a certain person makes you feel bad, even if it is your child, then maybe you don't
set the boundaries.
Yeah.
And then maybe it's setting the boundaries, not necessarily.
Maybe that's right. The boundaries.
Cutting them off, because the boundary could be, well, baby, if you come to the house, I'll give you a plate of food. You can stay on the porch. You can't come in the house because you might walk off with some stuff that is yours. Right. But that's as far as I can go. That's my boundary.
So what would be, I don't know, some advice you would say to somebody with adult children that, like, I guess for me, I would say, like, I feel like what I always tried to do, I always was strict and had rules, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm kind of lame like that, but I always tried to have a relationship too. So as Madison transitioned to an adult, I tried to be somebody that she would talk to
Mm-hmm.
and listen to. So my advice when you have older children, even younger, but older children, is let you be the source that they come to.
Yes.
And what I've learned, and I think Nick taught me this years ago, or our counselor, I think, is to ask, do you want my advice or do you want me to listen?
Wow. I've never done that.
Because I'm the type of person who's like, do this. So now it's like, do you want my advice or do you want me just to listen?
Wow.
Because sometimes it just, and then usually once they talk, I'll say, okay, well, how do you feel about that? And then she'll be like, well, what do you think? I'm like, well, you told me just to listen. So do you want my advice or did you want me to just, you know what I mean? But I think that's a great way to maybe make your kids feel, your adult kids, like, okay, my parents, especially if you were a stricter parent, maybe not as much fun, now that they know, like, wait, they are pretty cool. They just had to be this person to get me to this point. Now they're like, okay, cool, my job is done. You be you and let's be cool. Like, so that's my advice, is I would say, you know, make yourself a person that your kids want to talk to. And maybe that respect and that growth would create them to want to move on to their own if they haven't yet. But I don't know. And I think the other thing that
advice, I never would have thought about it like that. And I don't think I've ever said that to my adult children. I've still been kind of the parent throughout their lives. Even now, are you having sex? You better use a condom and you better not get a grandchild. You're not ready for it, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, I still say stuff like, girl, come on now.
But,
our personalities are just like that. Like, they're like, oh, we went to the beach. Oh, you did you? Yeah. Are you on birth? Exactly. Yeah.
Did you pay your rent this month?
Yeah.
What the heck? But I think, like you're saying, just that transition of, okay, I've done my job. I've equipped them well enough to be able to go out into society and be productive. What they choose to do with it, it's not a reflection on me. If you can look at it like that and remember that you didn't have it all together when you were 20, 21, and allowing yourself to be that safe space for them to be able to come back and say, Mom, I done screwed up. I need help. I need advice. And being that safe, because I think that's the one thing I felt I missed out on having a healthy parent, was I didn't have a safe place to fall. So when I fell, it was flat on my face and I was looking around like,
taking whoever would help you. Yeah.
Girl, you better figure this shit out, because ain't nobody coming to your rescue. And so I really worked hard to be that for them, but maybe I did too much. Yeah. And I'm still trying to be that safe space for them to fall, so that if they got in trouble, you're not going to be homeless. You're not going to be hungry. But like you said, there has to be a limit on how far you let that go.
Right. And I think that's a challenging part for any parent. But especially because I think a lot of parents blame, like you just said, I think I did too much. I hear that from a lot of parents. I spoiled them their whole life. I never made them work. I didn't make them do their laundry. I made their food for them. I packed their lunches. Now they don't know how to be an adult. So I do kind of, I don't want to use the word blame, but I do kind of say that the parent takes responsibility in that then. So, but that doesn't mean you keep living in it. Like I tell, you can't live in it. Okay, cool. Now we got to fix it. How do we fix it? Start teaching them how to cook. Get your bills. Tell them they got to pay $25 of every one and figure out how to pay it, or so there's always ways to reverse it. But adult children is hard because they're adults, period, but when they live in your house, it's like they're still your child, not an adult.
Still my child. You are not an adult.
Right. You can't see them that way.
I take care of you. So no, you're not an adult. Until you get out there and figure out life, then maybe I can have some sympathy for you.
I think trying to relate is different. Like, here's the thing that we talked about with other children when we had another podcast, but my parents, we didn't converse, I don't know how to explain it. We didn't have to spend all of our time as kids together. We didn't do that, And now I think the generation growing up, you spend so much time with your kids, which I think creates that dependency. Where when we were younger, you went out and rode your bikes and you weren't on mom and dad's lap, and you came home, you ate, showered, went to bed. Then you got up, you went to school, you walked your butt home from the school bus. Your parents didn't drive you, you rode the bus, same routine. Don't come in this house until the lights come on. You know what I mean? You went and got in trouble, came home, and you figured life out. And then at 15, they were like, go get a job if you want a car. And then they pushed you out. Where now I think it's changed over years, where there's a lot of I'm going to carry you until you're 2, and I'm going to, you're going to co-sleep with me until you're 10. And you're going to
what the hell?
But you know what I'm saying? There is a lot different. And I think that makes it harder to push your child out, or for your child to see that independency if you aren't pushing it as a parent. Young age, fold your clothes. I mean, Madison was doing laundry at 6. doing dishes. Like, I'm not,
So I think that's teaching the accountability and responsibility of preparing them for life.
Right.
That we kind of stopped doing.
That's one of our hard jobs, though, because as a parent, you're already freaking tired. But then you have to remember that these adults are going to be the next generation of adults, and they're going to be raising children. So how do you want them raising your children?
They're going to raise them using a tablet.
A tablet. Oh my gosh, I know.
I hate that.
It kills me, girl. You go to a dinner and you see all 3 kids just sitting on a tablet for the whole 2 hours. They don't barely eat their food. I'm like, these kids. Anyway, that's a whole other episode.
That's a whole nother podcast.
But adult kids can be rewarding and challenging, and it always comes down to communication and being open. Sometimes there's a lot of things I believe to the core and I get upset about, and I have to push those aside and let her talk or let them talk and communicate so that they know they can talk and communicate. But I tell you what, that's sometimes hard as a parent when you want to be like, that's freaking dumb. What the hell are you thinking?
The best lesson I've learned from that is being told not being told, but getting the feeling that the advice I'm trying to give, you don't want to hear it, or hearing it from somebody else that, well, you gave so-and-so advice, but they were like, they didn't want to hear it. So that taught me, okay, Tiffany, like you're saying, you need to ask, do you want me to just listen or do you want my advice? If they just want you to listen, then you listen and shut your mouth and let them figure it out.
Yeah. The one thing that's interesting though, when you just said that, what'd they say? Oh, I wish I had it. It's like 13 to 21 or something.
They're retarded. That's the bad word. My bad.
They will immature, but they will take, I could tell your kid probably the same thing you do. And they're going to go, you know what Megan told me? Megan told me I should do this. And you were like, I've told you that 4 fucking times. Yeah. But you're the idiot. Like you don't know anything. So that's what I think I reassure myself, because I see it a lot, they don't want to hear you. They're rebelling against you. It's nature from the time they were created. They were out in the wild. Like they weren't going to their parent for everything, but other people gave guidance. And so I think a lot of that age group, they're rebelling almost to what you're saying or don't want to hear what you're saying. But if somebody overhears, mom tells me or dad tells me, oh, that's golden. Oh, yeah. And it drives me insane. And it happens even at work with adults. Like I will say the same thing 10 times. And one other person, I never knew that. I'm like, what? I've said it 10 times. But I think that we have to accept that amongst parents is that put your kids around good kids and good parents. Yeah. Because if they're not listening to you, you want them listening to the people who are like-minded of you. And that would be probably one of the biggest things I would say when it comes to friends, building up to that adulthood and those friends' family structure. Because if they're good and on the same page as you, then they're going to love you, and they're going to be on the same page as you, teaching them what you're saying, but they're only going to hear it from them.
That's true. So, and then have a conversation.
Yeah.
You've done your job. Start learning how to have conversations with your adult children.
You have to take that parent hat off a little bit.
Yeah, sure does. All right, guys.
All right.
We hope you learned something today.
Give us some feedback. What's your biggest challenge raising adult children? What have you faced? Give me some advice. What's one thing you love about having adult children, and what is one thing that you cannot stand about having adult children? How about that? Yes, share. And share this video, this podcast with your friends who have adult children, and give us 5 stars, please. Yes. And until next time, bye guys.